guys, it's Lanikia, and I am coming to you with season 1, episode 5 of Good Girls called Everything Must Go. I just came from the gym, so I wanted to try to get this video up tonight because I wanted to stay in order. Anyways, it starts off when we see Stan laying on the couch, and he's telling Ruby, "So tell me again." And she said, "Which part?" She's like, "Which part?" And he's like, "The part where you chop his body up." And she's pretty much like, "We didn't do that," but she starts telling him the story again. And he keeps making her tell him over and over again. And I do like this, that she didn't lie to him, because that was my main concern, because I'm like, we do not want Ruby and Stan broken up. Like, we want them together. And so that was my main concern with them. So I was very happy that she went ahead and she told him. He's making her tell him over and over again because he wants to make sure that they didn't miss anything in this as far as what's going on. Okay, so then he tells her that somebody could have saw them. She said, "No, we were really careful there. Nobody could saw us and could have seen us." And he says, "Why are you telling me this?" And she says, she tells him she told him because he told her no more lies. And he said, "I'm an idiot." So it's like, I didn't want to know. And sometimes you don't want to know. So I'm like, yeah, I understand that completely. Yeah. So then we go to Beth, who's in bed thinking about Rio. And like he's smashing, like, so as she's pleasuring herself, she's thinking about Rio, and he's like smashing stuff up. So she likes all that bad boy, and every like that he did and everything. The other, when he was damaging the vet. So then Dean comes in, he deserves her moment, asking about, how to make French toast. So Beth is so then we go to Annie, who is with Sadie, and Sadie tells her that Nancy's being crazy, and she says it's because Greg cheated on her. And Sadie says, Greg's a jerk for cheating on Nancy, and the person he cheated with is even a bigger jerk because they're married and he's having a baby on the way and everything. So Annie's feeling kind of bad about that because, she's the one Greg was cheating with. So as she gets Sadie ready for school, she gets a call from Annie, and Annie's on the phone, and she tells her there's a witness. So then Beth, Ruby, and Annie are all together, and they're like, who could have seen us? There were no cameras. There was none of that. And they were like, we're the only three who knows what happened. And Beth is like, no, there's four of us. And they're like, what? And she's like, there's four of us. And then they realize it's Mary Pat who's doing all this. So then we see Mary Pat with Jimmy in the hotel, and he has her in the same place that he had Boomer. And she's like, what? Oh my gosh, I can't live here. I can't live like this with them bad kids. And she's like, we can't live like this. And he was like, yeah, prison cell is way smaller. So get used to it and suck it up. And I'm just like, okay. So they're like, well, why? So then we cut back to, so it's going back and forth between the girls and Mary Pat and Jimmy. So then we go back to the girls, and they're like, why would she tell? Like, she did this. So what benefit would she get out of being the witness that the police have? And then we go back to Mary Pat and Jimmy, and we find out that she's just saying that Jimmy wants those girls so bad that he, like, rationally, he has to know Mary Pat did this, because our little boy said, we saw you put daddy in there in the freezer, but he wants those girls so bad that he's willing to believe that Mary Pat had nothing to do with it. They just did it all at her house, but she had nothing to do with it. It was funny when she couldn't spell machete, and they were trying to guess he was trying to guess what she was saying. But I'm just like, Jimmy, you're a detective, but you're not really acting like a detective on this, because you're not trying to look into this. Like, you just want it to be those girls, so you're willing to believe Mary Pat and ignore the fact that doesn't make sense, what she's saying about, oh, they ran him over several times, they chopped him up with a machete, they did this and that. And that's a completely I don't know if that's the real story, because what Mary Pat said, she was like, they ran him over once. She was telling the girls, like, she just hit him that one time and then cut him up with an electrical saw. So I'm like, the story she's telling Jimmy is completely different. And if that's the truth, Mary Pat is wrong. Like, and I could see that story being more the truth than the one she told the girls or whatever. So I don't know. So then Jimmy has, okay, so I'm already did that. So then we see that Beth and Annie and Ruby go and talk to Rio. So once they go and speak to Rio, they ask him to get rid of Mary Pat because she's talking to the feds. And he tells Beth, like, what did I tell you about your rotten egg? Because he told her last season to get rid of Mary Pat and she didn't want to do it. She just kept and letting it progress until it's got to this point where Mary Pat is willing to throw her under the bus. She has no problem doing it. So they're like, okay, can we get rid of her, get rid of our rotten egg? This is Ruby, without like actually getting rid of her. And Annie is like, unless you just have to, because I'm like Annie, like if you have to do what you got to do to Mary Pat, do what you got to do, because she's willing to throw y'all under the bus and she doesn't care. Because if she never went to the police station and said that Boomer was missing, they would have never known, and they wouldn't have linked her to it, and they wouldn't have linked the girls to it. But Mary Pat is trying to cover her own tracks. So anyways, he tells Beth that in order to do this, it's gonna take 200,000, and she's like, "What?" And he just pretty much tells her, fixing your problem is not cheap, like making things go away. And then he asks her, did she need a bathroom break and all that? He's still in his feelings because Beth is not. I don't know what he's expecting from Beth. I don't get it. Like, I'm like, do you want a relationship? What's going on? Because he's in his feelings about her not telling Dean about the affair and everything. At least that's how I take it. You might have a different opinion. But he seems like he's hurt. But anyway, so Beth asks Dean to buy cars. She tells him how much would it take to get 200,000, and he thinks it's Rio, and she tells him no, it's for me. And he says, well, I can get the cars maybe. And she's like, why maybe? So then we cut to the next scene, and it's Ruby, Beth, and Annie again. And we see Amber on the commercial. She's now the wholesale spokesperson or everything. She's the go-to person with buying these cars wholesale that Dean would need to be able to sell the cars or whatever. Excuse me. And she won't do it. She won't do it because it's Dean, so that's why he can't get the inventory. So they just, and that commercial was a mess. So they decide to go to Amber and talk to her, and Amber is she tells Beth, I can't believe you're here. And was anybody like, why is Amber still upset with Dean? Like, you knew he was married, you knew he had kids, you knew all of this. So why are your feelings so hurt? Even if he did say, I'm leaving my wife and I'm doing this, everybody knows that they don't act, like most of them do not actually do that. Plus, you were more than happy to take the 5,000 and go in the plane ticket or bus ticket, whatever it was, and live your dreams in LA. So why are you still holding on to bitter and resentment? But anyways, she and Beth have some kind of bond, even though Beth should be mad at her still. But they have some kind of bond, and she tells Amber that buying the cars wholesale for the Bolin dealership would be for her, not Dean. And she lets Amber know, and so Amber's like, Amber asks her about forgiving Dean, and she said yes. And she said, Amber tells Beth, I couldn't forgive him after all those times. And so then Beth is like, what do you mean all those times? Do you mean like all those times with one woman, or one woman, many women one time? And Annie's like, or do you mean many women, not just one woman, but many women, many times? And Ruby's like, there's no good answer, because there's not. No matter how you answer it, knowing that he was messing with somebody more than just Amber is just bad. So Amber lets her know. Amber pretty much tells Beth that Dean was messing with more than just her. So then we go. Beth is beating this. So the next scene is Beth just beating the devil out of this steak. So she's at the house and she's beating this steak, and Annie and Ruby are trying to talk to her, just to see where her head is, because they realize she's upset, and they're like, are you upset because, like, it's not, he's already a cheater, so seeing that he cheated with multiple people, it's not that bad. Like, they're trying to make it better. And she said, it's not that and Beth lets them know it's not that he cheated. it's just that it was anybody. He didn't care. Like at first she thought there was just something about Amber and he did it with Amber, but now she knows that it was just any warm body. So that's what has her upset and beating the devil out of the stake. So then as they're talking, Stan calls, and Stan is just kind of rambling to Ruby, and she puts him on speaker, and he says he's going to be late for dinner because they found a scent. He said it was almost over. He was like, it was almost over. They went to the landfill. I guess they couldn't find anything. Then they went to the lake where the cell phone and everything was. They didn't find anything or whatever, but then they went back to the landfill and a dog picked up a scent. And he said, so now they're going to search the whole thing because that dog, they're not going to stop until they find something because the dog picked up a scent. And so now they're just like, oh my gosh, the body's there. So then we see Beth goes in and she so the next scene is Beth going in and she's talking to Dean. Dean is in his office and she just sees his interaction with women, and it might not have been like, if you don't notice, like if you don't know that your husband is a cheater, then what he was doing might not seem like much, but when you know your husband is a cheater, what he was doing seemed like a lot. Like he's rubbing, he's touching them. The women seem very affectionate towards him. It's a lot. So Beth confronts Dean about the cheating. And he says that, they hadn't had sex in 2 years. Beth said she was depressed. Like, I guess she had postpartum after their children. And he said, we hadn't had sex in 2 years. And she was like, yes, we did. And he was like, no, we hadn't. And what did you expect me to do? And I'm like, well, she didn't cheat. Y'all might not have had sex in 2 years, but she didn't cheat. So why is it that people use that as an excuse to go out and do what they want to do? If it was that bad, y'all could have went to counseling or something. But Beth didn't say anything. She just left. So then we go to the next scene, and it's Ruby and Stan comes in, and he's talking about this show that they love to watch. Is that a real show? Anyways, he's talking about this show that they would love to watch, and she's like, Stan, we threw a body away. This is serious. And he just breaks down. He's like, I know it's serious. And he lays his head in her lap because they're in the bed, and he just lays his head in her lap, and he said, I just need to get into this show. I need to not think about it and everything. And he starts crying. He's got tears in his eyes. And Ruby realized, like, she's really put a lot of pressure on her husband. And so she's crying, but she starts talking about the show. And then that's how that scene, goes. So then Jimmy meets Beth at a commercial, at a convenience store. And she's putting like alcohol in her, drink and everything, because she's just had a rough day with all that with Dean. And I don't even with all that with Dean, I guess she's realizing how much of she put into the marriage and how much it was just broken. So she's putting liquor in her drink, in her slushy. And when she goes outside, Jimmy's there, and he tells her, we have a witness, and she pretty much tells him, your witness is lying. Because we didn't do that. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, and whatever you're talking about, we didn't do it, and your witness is lying. And so that's how that scene goes. So Beth tells Aunt Dean she has to move cars that day because they're close to finding the body. And Dean is like, oh, we can't do it. I'm not able to do it. And so she tells him there's a body, Dean, and they're going to pin that on me, because she realizes after speaking with Jimmy that they think that she killed Boomer, and that even if she didn't, he's gonna find a way to pin that on her. So she's like, we have to move these cars because I need that $200,000, because she needs to pay Rio to make this go away, which Rio could have just made this go away, but his hands are clean of it because really he had nothing to do with that. He told them to do it and everything, but they did the dirty work. That's just like when I was saying, like, Mary Pat would have been at that dumpster with me. Like, she wouldn't have got to get away with killing him, and then we do her dirty work, and now she's turning this all around on us. That's messed up. But anyways, so Dean is like, oh my gosh. So he's like, I would have to give the cars away. And she says, okay, let's give them away. And that's exactly what they do. Like, they literally give those cars away. They put them at dirt cheap prices to get the $200,000, but they get the money. So the next scene is Annie and Ruby, and Beth, and they have their money because they sold all of the cars, And they're like, Beth, you're looking different. Like, what's going on with your hair? It looks fluffy and everything. Annie and Ruby are telling her, and she's like, I washed it, guys. So then Rio comes and she hands him the money. And as she's handing him the money, there was no reason for Rio to touch her hand, but he did. And he's counting it and everything. So she was like, what are you going to do? And he was like, I'm going to take care of it. And they were like, so what is that? Pretty much like, how will we know it's taken care of? He said, if you don't get arrested, then you'll know it was taken care of. Um, and so he stands up and he starts looking at Beth, and Annie's like, well, that's not really reassuring. And he looks at Beth and he tells her, do you trust me? And she's like, God, no. And he was like, he smiles at her and he said, that's good. And he leaves. And it's the because they were flirting, and it was the chemistry between them. And Annie's looking at that and she's like, because Annie saw it earlier when they were talking about the bathroom break. In the first scene when they were telling him they need to get rid of it, she saw the interaction between the two. It was just like you could see she was looking at them. And then on this scene, she finally realized it, and she was like, oh my gosh, you slept with him. She was like, of all the people, like, and Beth didn't want to talk about it. But she's just but Annie is just like, because if that were me, you would tell me how silly it was, like how stupid I would be for sleeping with him. She was like, because this is too close. Like, this could end badly for us. And Ruby's just like, how was it? Was it good? Ruby's just over there thinking about, like, oh my gosh, like, as a friend, whereas Annie is thinking about, oh my gosh, like, we're in all of this because you can't leave. One of the reasons is because you can't leave him alone. And that's why you've been acting the way you were acting. Because, she feels like Beth is acting like she's the head, in charge. And she's feeling like it's because, oh, you're sleeping with Rio, so you feel like you get some kind of perks or privileges, or you're a queen, of it all, or whatever, in charge of it. So anyways, it just ends with Beth telling Annie, you can't judge me, like, you slept with a married man whose wife is pregnant, and you just stopped doing that, like, recently you just stopped doing that. So Annie was like, Annie realized she couldn't judge her, so she just says it's gonna end badly and walks away. And so they all just walk away. So Annie is dropping Sadie off at school, and I don't know why Annie she shares too much with Sadie. And she just tells Sadie that she is the big jerk that slept with Greg, and it's complicated and everything. And she says, say something, and Sadie's like, I gotta go to school. And she was like, say something else. And she was like, I want to spend the night at Nancy's. So Sadie is mad at her right now for what they did. Because I think Sadie, maybe she tried not to, but I think she likes Nancy now. So Beth turns Dean into a house husband. She gives him a list of, like, you got to do this with the kids. You got to pick them up at this time. They have rehearsals and practices. And he was like, okay, so if I'm going to be doing all this, like, you just need me to do it once, or like what? And she's like, no, that's your routine. And he's like, well, if I'm doing all this, who's going to be, what are you going to be doing? And she said, I'm going to be here working. And she said, you're right, because earlier he had said one of us has to lead or whatever. We can't both be leaders, something to that effect. And she says, you're right. And so she's gonna be the leader of it all. She turns him into the house husband, and I guess everything just adding up for her just came to a head. So yeah. So happy moment, because Stan says they found nobody. So this is another 2-part scene. So we have Stan and Ruby talking, and then we have Mary Pat and Jimmy talking. So Stan says they found nobody, and Ruby's like, what? But she was like, she tells Stan, we threw that man away. He's out there. And Stan was like, you must have an angel looking out for you or something. And she's like, or something, because she realizes Rio got the body, recovered the body for them. So then, how was he able to recover that body so fast? He had to have paid off somebody. I don't know. But so then we see Jimmy rolling up on Mary Pat, and he's upset. He's like, girl, you had us searching that whole landfill, and there is nobody out there. I should lock you up. You and your kids get out. Get out of this hotel room or whatever. And she's like, no. Now Mary Pat is worried because she knows they're going to come for her because she's been lying and everything. And so now she's throwing out anything, and he was like, well, where'd the body go? Who got the body? Did Jesus come out and get the body? And she's like, one of them is married to a cop. Pissed off. I'm like, no, you didn't just throw Stan and Ruby under, because Stan and Ruby are the favorite couple. Well, they're really the only couple. But anyways, so she throws Stan and Ruby under the bus, and Jimmy looks like, what? And so it shows Stan and Ruby. They're like, finally, like, okay, everything is good. Like, because he gets it that she did it for their children, because he stole the cap and everything for his children. And Ruby is telling Stan, like, stay out of it. I don't want you in it anymore. And he's just like, wherever you go, I go. Like, he wants to be involved because he wants to protect them as much as he can or whatever. And so they're finally at a good place where they think everything is done. And I wish Ruby had went to Stan before they moved that body so that they could have did something with Mary Pat. I wish she had went to him then, but they didn't. So it is what it is. Like, now we're worried. Like, now I'm worried that Stan and Ruby are like, something's gonna happen with them. Like, I don't want them breaking up. I like them two together as a couple. But anyway, so then we see Beth doing a commercial. She's doing one of those cheesy commercials. And she talks about the new bowling management, and she has everything that she had said she wanted to implement. She's implementing. She shows like that they're changing their hours around so that working moms as well as moms who work in the home will be able to buy cars. She's changing it where they have, installation for car seats. She's doing like the teas and everything. She's making it more women friendly is what she's doing. Because women do drive, they're driving the SUVs and everything. And they need to go and pick out what's going to work for them. Being the soccer mom or whatever mom they are, as well as the working mom, whatever it is they do. So she's catering to them, which she felt like they were missing in the beginning. And she tried to tell Dean that last week. So she's doing her commercial and she finishes. And one of the ladies say, hey, there's your partner is here. It looks like your partner is here. So she looks up and it's Rio. And so she goes to him and she tells him, you can't tell people you're my partner, which Rio. But he's like, well, what do we, what do you want to call us or whatever? And she's like, let's just, have no titles. And he says something like, yeah, it's too early for that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Beth. And so then he tells her he moved the body, like he has her trash. And she says, where'd you put it? And he says, oh, he held on to it. And she's like, why? And he says, you know what they say, one man's trash. And she's like, who are you trying to protect, me or you? And he was like, let's just see how this plays out or whatever. And then one of the director comes over and he was like, Mrs. Bolin, we need you. And he was like, you'll do good, Mrs. Bolin. Just picture everyone naked. So I think Rio is like, I don't know if he's gonna blackmail her with this. I don't know what he's doing. Because I know he's not doing any. I don't feel like because someone put in the comments, because I'm on on the Facebook, and someone was like, oh my gosh, he's a psychopath and all these people are loving him. No, I mean, we know, we 100% know that, like, he's all about Rio. Like, nothing he's doing is to help Beth or anything. We just really like him. But we all know that he's not, like, everything he's doing is no good, and Beth is probably just digging herself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole that she can't get out of. But I mean, what can you do? She started all of this because she could have walked away last season when they were done paying him off and everything, when they took that trip to Canada. But she keeps going back to him, and they have this chemistry that she won't let go. And he, like, now that she slept with him, it looks like he's not letting her go. So we'll just see what happens. But there was a really good episode, and somebody said something about it. It's not coming on next week, which I hope not, because after watching this, I watched this episode like, well, I didn't watch it a few times. I watched some of my favorite parts, which was with Ruby, but I watched it like twice, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I was ready to see the next episode, and I'm glad it's one of those shows that you can't binge like on Netflix, because I'll probably binge it all in like a weekend or 2 weekends or something. So I'm glad it's one of those shows. But anyways, that is Good Girls, episode 5. All must go, everything must go, which proved it because they sold all of their stuff. But I don't know. It's a good show. I don't know what's gonna happen with Mary Pat and with Stan and Ruby or whatever. Because Mary Pat, like, she is willing to do whatever not to have to take any responsibility for the things that she did. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, y'all. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great evening.